So this is explorative and speculative, and it's just to bring up some ideas about, some ideas really about how genres cross over more than they think they cross over, not in a literal way perhaps. So yeah, that's a flyer from 2006, Whole Race versus Mega Rave. Okay, so I want to go back to 1992 just to sort of resonate with your thing on 1992 and jungle really. It seems to be a really important date. After a book that comes out in 30 years old. Okay, so industrial noise, that's the first thing that I want to talk about in relationship to this particular genre called Gabber House. Gabber House. People say it in Holland, or Gabba as Anglophone people say it. Then I want to turn to the use of horror and the rock aesthetic, where I think metal and Gabba start to meet up. And if I have a little bit of time, I'll come back to speed. And actually that rounds it up nicely with Chris's paper. So, yes, I need my computer and my paper, because usually I have everything on a PowerPoint. This time I actually have a paper. It's prepared. I forgot about that. It's in So yeah, Euromaster. So that's the Euromaster. The Euromaster is a big viewing tower. It's incredibly high, where you can see in Rotterdam all over the harbour, and it's kind of iconic for Rotterdam. My computer's decided to die. First time die. Okay, so Gabba, so you see a lot of humour there actually, but so it's initially a working class type of electronic dance music, I would say, which there's all sorts of strange technical things coming up here. Yeah, so, and actually recently Gabba has become of interest again because the avant-gardists somehow embraced it, even though, you know, in 1992 people were really sniffing at it and saying that was just about the most stupid, worst music possible, not only just because of the speed, but yeah, I mean, it's got nihilistic references to horror, gender politics are totally not okay, distorted noise, and yeah, incredible acceleration. First of all, then, that's what I was going to talk about. But anyway, so in 1992, then, Rotterdam was really the epicenter of this particular type of hardcore. Rotterdam being the second sort of city in the Netherlands, but also the largest harbour or port in the world. So it has a very big working class and operational industry. In that sense, it's not post-industrial at all. It's a very industrial city, although living in the city, one actually knows it's very rich and yeah, huge port. Now, the reason why I was showing this particular slide is that Gabba is actually, the word Gabber is a Yiddish word, Dutch Yiddish word, and it means geezer or mate, being with your mate. So it's very much, you know, music that's associated with working class young men. And it was very much used in the derogatory manner by Amsterdam rifle house music fans who were into more sophisticated sort of deep house and vocal house, as well as football fans, because there was in particular famous football fans who really embraced the sound of Gabba. Yeah, so the term was very much adopted and accepted as a badge of honour. Yeah, okay, so we're Gabber. And confirming this as a subcultural identity. So the guys were very much recognisable by their shaved skinheads, and the girls had like a half-shaven style, a little bit like skinhead girls here, but slightly different again. but we're not going to talk about hairstyle today. Okay, so this then is Amsterdam where ligt dat dan, which means really like Amsterdam, where the fuck is it? And Amsterdam then being the big rival. So this is the Euromast pissing on Amsterdam and destroying it in the process. Stupid old buildings, there's a pub sector there, and all this kind of, you know, a whole bunch of girls there. Amsterdam's like, just a bunch of yobs basically. So it's sort of like a very unsavoury way of pointing fingers at each other. Okay, so one of the reasons perhaps why Gabba became very successful in Rotterdam was that the authorities were slightly less, they were more lenient towards so-called house parties or raves than they were elsewhere in the country. So a lot of people were actually coming to Rotterdam to quite huge events. And according to one of the main DJs there, Paul Elstak, this particular venue, this was in a park, very nice actually, but this venue called Parkzicht, so it means looking at the park. And he says that indeed, you know, his club attracts a lot of working class people who worked in the international harbour. I was actually there in 1992 that he had this regular night called Nightmare in the Park. So yeah, where the first horror reference starts. So it's then refers to the 1984 movie Nightmare on Elm Street. And this was followed later on by other parties and raves called Nightmare in Rotterdam, which sort of carried on into bigger and bigger sports halls. In the end, ending up in Ahoy, which is like a massive big venue and sports hall where, you know, they do big cycling competitions, so it's absolutely huge. So let's see, here's the Nightmare in the Park. Again, you see a little bit of the Euromast there, and you see Amsterdam being the turret in this case. Recognise where that is geographically. So there's a lot of sort of parochial humour in there as well. Yeah, with artists, it's this holy noise and the Sperminator, and of course the Euromasters being very proud to be from Rotterdam. So that sort of summarises a little bit of the attitudes there. One of the biggest dance events in 1992 was actually on the beach. This is relatively close to Rotterdam, where apparently about 20,000 people were there. It wasn't exclusively the sound of Gabba, it was what you would call hardcore. So it was a mixture of breakbeats, rave music, and something that you start to recognise really as Gabba music. I'll play some music in a moment. So, in terms of industrial noise, you know, so Gabba features very often sort of British rave-inspired breakbeats that are speeded up, but also very sort of Teutonic, if I may say so, kind of very banging four-on-the-floor drum beats. And it doesn't sound like funky disco at all, but more like an industrial pylon driver. It's maybe not that surprising. I mean, when I grew up in Rotterdam, it was still repairing itself from the Second World War. You know, the whole heart of Rotterdam was basically bombed during the Second World War, and so he grew up to the sound of these pylons actually. So that is not all of the reason that that music sounds like that, but it actually normalises that type of sounds for a lot of people there. And an iconic example of that particular sound is Sperminator's No Women Allowed, which also has a problematic type of title, but I'll play a bit to you. And it starts with a horror film sample that has inspired the title. what. Okay. So yeah, so that's discriminating, no women allowed. I've not been actually able to track down where the sample came from. I've got a few horror film specialists to listen to it, but they will not confirm that it's Christopher Lee it sounded like. Okay, so but this kind of no women allowed sample, sounds quite offensive, but to be honest, it has been reappropriated as well, and I've seen it being played in London where it's filled up the entire dance floor with women. As soon as that came on, it was like the favourite track of this particular club for women. Oh yeah, So it's kind of really turning around of music habits and audiences, so that we don't just take the music on face value, but actually see how people use it as well. Now, this particular industrial sound is also related to the Neue Welle, the German New Wave, and electronic body music, and Mescalinum United is actually a German production by Marc Trauner. We have arrived. This already has a lot of the qualities of this sound. Oh, come on. So actually, Marc Trauner has been invited this year to the CTO Festival. This is the sound and music component of Transmedia in Berlin, which invites anything that's sort of pioneering and avant-garde really in media and music. So there it kind of shows that actually that particular sound is now sort of being embraced as a type of avant-garde. And the theme was actually turmoil. So the whole theme of that particular festival, which took place in February, was very much about noise and about breaking things up and starting again. So working class noise is now embraced as art, one could ask oneself. Okay, now the drum sounds of these productions are mostly, seems generated by a drum machine called the 909, or the Roland 909, which is also used for techno. It's also used in early house music, much more softer kind of sound of Frankie Knuckles is also supported with a 909, which Frankie Knuckles came from New York, and he adapted New York sort of dance records to a Chicago crowd, who again are from a post-industrial, a harsher, kind of more gritty city, who preferred the harder sort of bass sound and a harder sound really, more noise. So that was adapted for that particular crowd. It's also, you have this kind of characteristic kind of swirling, multi-track piercing, low resolution, I would say, Hoover synths, this kind of Hoover sound, which almost seems to refer to 8-bit Atari video gaming, and actually at the time people used the same type of computers as they did for video gaming for music production. So again, there's a sort of crossover there of video game culture on home computers and the production of these rather sort of cheap, fast, moving, noisy sounds on Gabba. Now, it was programmed to sound relatively fast, although this all sounds quite slow now compared to what we hear now. Yet there was no celebration of virtuosity. You press the button and it goes faster. So it's totally not virtuous. There's no, in that sense, very radical as well. I would say that all of it is kind of packaged in a sort of blank semiotic space, and this is where I'm very often at loggerheads with a lot of other academics who want to find meaning, but I think the meaning is produced by the audiences and how they actually adapt and adopt and reappropriate these particular sounds. So it can be working class football fan music and slightly moronic, and if you see the crowds, I mean, they haven't taken one ecstasy pill, they've taken loads. I mean, they're completely stiff toxins actually if you see the footage. And on the other hand, you know, a lesbian club in London, or a gay club called Fist, that's just kind of quite hard-edged. And, you know, and then there's CTM now in Berlin, embracing it as an avant-garde sound. So I think there's a certain blank semiotic space there, a type of amorphous noise, and especially the noise that it hasn't, you know, it has potential, but it hasn't been shaped yet. So it can be contextualized as ironic and not ironic. It can be ironic with a rockist kind of dislike for disco, and yet go to a dance club with that type of sound. And one could maybe say that our links to dance club music, but as also Alexander Reed explains in his book on industrial music, it's a book called Assimilate. He actually sort of argues that with the adoption of drum machines, that's when the sound of house music, and before that, you know, the kind of disco sound and the sort of post-punk kind of noisy sound started to merge together. So in this sense, I also say Nine Inch Nails comes from a different trajectory, I would say, than say Detroit Techno, although with using the same kind of drum machine speeds and four-quarter beats, it starts to, you know, you could mix it together basically. So for Gabba, also of importance is From 242, Body to Body, or Der Mussolini by Deutsche Amerikanische Freundschaft, or DAF, which I don't have time to play right now. So industrial, I think, is characterized very often by very noisy sounds and machine aesthetic that really foregrounds noise. And in a similar way, Gabba overdrives the volume of this kind of shrieking and punching kind of sound palette and really takes it to the extremes. How extreme can you get it? And produce a kind of really immersive experience of excess. And an excess really, more than anything, of rage and violence. So, yeah, release your anger, Rotterdam terror chorus, you know, that's probably sort of summarizes as an image that type of feeling. So noise then is a tricky thing to theorize, and I'm really pleased to hear your paper on the subject as well, because we're still thinking about it really. I mean, it's unwelcome interference, it can be regarded as anti-music, and there's different ways of hearing it. Actually, quite interestingly, but that's just a little footnote quickly. Oh my God, 2 minutes to go, and I haven't even got there. I won't go to the footnote. Okay, so noise is so embryonic from a state of chaos that it can be morphed in many directions. Okay, just to get to the horror thing then, quickly. So there's a certain masochism, I think, in the participation in that sound. And there's something macho about that as well. It's like, can you handle this noise? Can you handle the terror? Can you handle the nightmare? Can you handle this speed? You know, oh, just make it a bit faster, make it a bit more horrible. You know, we all hate disco, so that's why we're all suffering in this disco kind of attitude. Which is, in some ways, you know, in Rotterdam you have this whole ethic of hard work. You know, in particular, working in a harbour is hard work, but hard work is sort of like the motto, actually, of this whole music scene. Anyway, whether you're Gabba or not Gabba. And maybe there's something quite Protestant about that as well, you know, this whole work ethic, really, and we're born to suffer. Let's all suffer together at a party, everyone is nice to each other. So, yeah, so we can possibly find some comparisons with metal here, and heavy metal. So, what I find interesting then is Robert Walsh's book that was written around the same time that Gabba peaked, and it's called Running with the Devil. And it talks about the horror genre and its aesthetic that appear that appeared a long time ago as a counter to the rationality of enlightenment, and that it coincides with periods of social strain and disorder. That horror, pain and terror enable intense physical and mental experiences that can play an important role also in adolescent rite of passage. So, the adrenaline rush caused by horror can cause also a sense of excitement, which can be perceived as pleasurable. So perfect for an initial rave populated by young working class dancers. So during the early 1990s, he argues, Walser, that a chasm appeared between fast financial capital, and this is important, and a slowing economy at the same time. And it produces a gap between the ambition of young people and the actual reality of where they can actually head towards. And that, in that context, the horror became a way to channel the resultant sense of rage, and that's the kind of rage that you hear in metal, I think, as well as in Gabba, and a sort of similar imagery starts to appear. And also you see it, or hear it, and see it in drum and bass. So similar generation, I know I'm going to stop in a second, but a similar generation, early 90s, mid-90s, dealing with this kind of fast capitalism, acceleration, and how do we actually deal with that, and actually causing this sense of discomfort, I would say. The dark side of the capitalist security state is basically played out in the horror of this particular sound. So nihilism, irony, and all these kind of things are kind of used as tools really to cope. I'll just very fast go forward my references. Thank you very much.
Any question? Yes. From Gabbers, from hardstyle and hardcore and Frenchcore and other very aggressive four-to-floor kinds of music. To what extent do you think that resonates as sort of Rotterdamness in those genres? Because this that party was in Eindhoven already, so is there like a switch going?
Have you been in Eindhoven already?
Well, it wasn't in Rotterdam anymore. Like the first couple of events you showed were in Rotterdam. But do you feel like Gabber is not necessarily Rotterdam anymore?
No, not at all, but I mean in 1992 it was.
Yeah.
And that's when that particular aesthetic kind of was shaped. So with genre formation, you just have particular moments of where you have particular crossroads and a certain intensity that's caused by a whole complexity of events, really, and it creates a certain aesthetic and that people can hold on to and more of them create subgenres within. But so just like drum and bass came out of a particular moment and geographical location within London, really, in the London area, and a certain demographic coming together of people there. But it doesn't mean that only people from London can do drum and bass. I mean, it's gone worldwide, in the same way you can think about Gabba. But I think, with it being Dutch, I don't think it's given that much recognition. In the same way that London or American genres are given that type of attention, I would say.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
I think you're definitely right to kind of point to the sort of noise in the music as perhaps a kind of response to representation of channeling of violence, and I think that definitely connects up with a lot of stuff in metal and perhaps other kind of things. But I guess the classic kind of sociological kind of response question to that is is this, you mentioned, is it a tool to cope? Is it something that actually kind of, is there a sense where it's kind of an escape valve that accustoms people to the kind of violence of their conditions? Or is it something that actually kind of raises a kind of form of bodily consciousness with which to help them deal with that?
I think in the first place it's an escape valve. I think the way that CTM is now framing it is in the latter, in the more revolutionary sense. But so that's what I'm trying to say, like noise is so amorphous. And that makes it very religious as well, and mystical, and you know, it's sort of like this kind of moment of becoming, but it hasn't become yet, you know. It's permanently imminent. So, you know.
I wonder about the technical and visual elements of it. With metal, the guitar is so central, and the kind of energy and all of that. The question of preference for that. But your idea of like the speed for this just comes from turning the knob. There's not that kind of personal virtuosity or anything invested. Is there a kind of performance culture around the DJing of this, or anything? Is there anything that happens in the dance?
Dancing actually is quite rapid and fast and bizarre. I call it cyber clogs. They kind of, you know, they actually do this kind of movement, don't they? But incredibly fast. So I couldn't demonstrate it for you, and I don't even wish to. But yeah, I can play the clip if you're really interested.
That'd be great now. We're ahead of time.
You sure? Yeah, you want to see it? And thank you for the clip, actually. We had some technical help here. Yeah, it's to make it possible. In a white background, visualised like that, because it makes it a real spectacle. I usually do it in a smoky, dark space. There are loads of people doing that kind of stuff, and there are lots of variations as well. But it's about can you handle that kind of speed, and how much more fast can you do that? So some people can actually get their legs quite high up as well at that type of speed. This is later in the clip, but I don't know whether you can stand the pain. I don't know whether you're prepared for that on a Wednesday morning, so I can always give you the URL. It's about half an hour. Okay. So thank you.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.